There is a kind of hunger that food cannot touch. It lives in the chest just below the sternum, and it wakes a child up at night before he even understands what he is missing. Elijah Carter knew that hunger before he knew his own name. He carried it through every care home in South London, through every school where no one came to parents' evening, through every birthday that passed without a card or a call or any sign at all that somewhere in the world a woman remembered the day he was born. His mother had walked out of a hospital on Borough Road in Southwark 39 years ago. She had looked at the infant in the bassinet, signed a paper, and left without looking back. What she chose to do in the years that followed was not dramatic. It was not loud. But it told Elijah everything about who she was, and something far worse about who he had almost become. Stay with me. What happens next will make you question everything you think you know about guilt, about forgiveness, and about the price of survival. Elijah Carter was 39 years old. He ran a private equity firm called Carter Meridian from offices on the 14th floor of a glass building in Canary Wharf. And from his window, he could see the Thames every morning, wide and gray and indifferent, moving through the city the way it had always moved, without asking permission and without stopping for anyone. He had chosen that office for that reason and no other. He had not come from money. He had come from a green duffel bag and a set of bunk beds in a care home on Cold Harbor Lane in Brixton, where the heating went out every January, and the staff changed so frequently that by the time you learned a name, the face had already gone. His story had been written about twice, once in the Financial Times and once in a Sunday magazine supplement that used the phrase self-made 4 times in 3 paragraphs. He had never corrected them. Self-made was not accurate, but it was close enough. And close enough was a skill he had learned early. He did not have a habit of talking about himself. He had a habit of arriving to every meeting 15 minutes early and sitting quietly until the room filled around him. He had a habit of reading the names on the doors of the buildings his firm acquired and learning one fact about the original owner before signing anything. He had a habit of keeping in the top drawer of his desk a single photograph. It was not of a person. It was a photograph of a house, a small Victorian terraced house on Nursery Road in Brixton, with a cracked front step and a gate that hung slightly off its hinge. He had driven past it once 7 years ago. He had not gone back. He did not speak about his mother, not to his assistant, not to Marcus Webb, his CFO, and the closest thing he had to a friend, not to the therapist he had seen twice in his 30s before deciding the silence was easier to carry alone. What he had built around the absence, the way a tree grows around a fence post, slowly, completely, until the wound is structural. Gloria Harmon was 61 years old. She lived in a 2-bedroom flat on Acre Lane in Brixton, 9 blocks from where Elijah had spent his first years in the care system. She had no idea. She worked 4 days a week at a dry cleaning counter on Cold Harbor Lane, pressing other people's suits and dress shirts, and she spent her lunch breaks sitting on a bench outside eating a sandwich she had made at 6 in the morning. She was not a bad woman. That was the part that was difficult to explain. She was not cold. She was not cruel. The women she worked with liked her. She brought birthday cake on their birthdays. She asked about grandchildren she could not keep straight and nodded like she could. She had made a decision at 22 years old that she had never stopped making every single day since. The decision was this. She had told herself it was the right thing, that she had nothing to give him, that he would have been better off, that some children find their way because they are not held back by the weight of a mother who had nothing left. She had told herself this so many times and for so long that she had almost stopped hearing it. Almost. There were nights she still reached for her phone at 2 in the morning and held it without dialing any number. There were Sunday mornings when she sat in the third pew of a church on Brixton Hill and prayed with a specificity that would have surprised anyone who heard it. She did not pray for forgiveness in the abstract. She prayed for a boy she had never raised in a city she had never left, whose face she had only seen once and had never forgotten. She did not know his name. She had not been told. She had chosen not to ask. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Gloria was at work when her neighbor called and said there was an envelope that looked important sitting in front of her door. She picked it up at 5:30. It was cream-colored, heavy stock, with a return address that meant nothing to her. Carter Meridian, LLC, 1 Canada Square, Canary Wharf, London E14. Inside was a single page. It read, "Dear Ms. Harmon, my name is Elijah Carter. I am the child you left at King's College Hospital on the 14th of November, 1985. I am not writing to hurt you. I am not writing to ask for anything. I am writing because I have spent 39 years building something, and I recently realized that I built it partly in the direction of this letter. I would like to meet you once. In a public place, at a time of your choosing. You do not owe me this. I am not asking for what was owed. I am asking for something smaller than that. The choice is yours. Elijah Carter." She sat on the floor of her hallway and read it 4 times. She did not cry. She had learned a long time ago that some things are too big for tears. She called in sick the next day and the day after. On the 3rd day, she wrote back. Her handwriting was careful and small, and she filled half a page before crossing all of it out and starting again. The second version said only this: "I will meet you. Name the place. I will be there. Gloria." He chose a cafe on Atlantic Road in Brixton called The Arch. It had been there since 1987. The tables were small and close together. The coffee came before you ordered it, and the owner knew every regular by name, and most of them by their usual. He arrived at 8:45 for a 9 o'clock meeting. He sat at the table at the back near the window, and he ordered coffee and did not touch it. He had not told Marcus where he was going. He had not told anyone. He watched the door. She walked in at 8:58. She was smaller than he had imagined. He had not realized until that moment that he had imagined her at all. She wore a gray coat and carried a bag against her side like she was protecting it. Her hair was silver at the temples. Her face was the face of someone who had been waiting for a long time to stop waiting. He stood when she reached the table. Neither of them spoke for a moment. She said quietly that she would have known him anywhere. He asked her to sit down. "Please." They ordered nothing for a long time. The owner refilled his coffee and gave Gloria a menu she didn't open. He had planned what he was going to say. He had written notes on a legal pad and then thrown the legal pad away. What came out instead was the truth, plain and without ceremony. He told her he needed her to understand something before they went any further. That he was not there because he needed something from her. That he was there because he needed to look at her. She said she understood. He said he did not think she did yet. He looked at her for a long moment. He was not angry. He had worked very hard over many years to understand the difference between anger and grief, and he had learned that anger is what grief wears when it cannot afford to be seen. He was grieving. She told him she knew she could not explain it in a way that made it right. He told her he was not asking her to. She asked him then what he was asking for. He reached into his jacket and set a key on the table between them. He told her there was a property on Nursery Road in Brixton, that he had bought it 8 months ago, that he had not touched it yet, that he would like her to go and see it. She looked at the key. She looked at him. She asked why. He told her he wanted to know what she did when she got there. She picked up the key. She said, all right. He told her he would not be there, that someone would let her in, that she would have the house to herself for 1 hour. She nodded. She asked nothing else. That was the first thing that surprised him. The house on Nursery Road was not much. It was a small Victorian terraced house, the kind Brixton was full of, narrow and deep with 3 rooms on each floor and a back garden that had been left to do what it wanted for several years and had taken full advantage of the permission. The front step was cracked down the middle. The hallway light had not worked in years. Inside, the walls were water-stained near the ceiling. The kitchen still had the original floor tiles, black and white in a diamond pattern, several tiles missing. The back bedroom had a wardrobe with no door, just a curtain rail with nothing hanging from it. A woman named Denise from Elijah's office met Gloria at the door and handed her a folder. She told her that Mr. Carter had wanted her to have it. Inside the folder were documents, a property history, records, going back 40 years. Gloria stood in the front room and read. The house had been owned from 1983 to 1991 by a woman named Ruth Carter. Ruth Carter, Elijah's grandmother. Gloria set the folder down on the kitchen counter and walked through every room slowly. She stood in the back bedroom for a long time. She did not open the wardrobe. She did not check the cabinets. She touched nothing she had not been invited to touch. In the kitchen, there was a photograph still on the wall. It must have been missed when the house was cleared. A small framed school photograph, the kind with the blurred blue background, of a boy about 7 years old. He was wearing a white collar shirt that was slightly too big. His eyes were looking just to the left of the camera the way children do when the photographer is trying too hard. She stood in front of it for a long time. Then she did something that no one had asked her to do and no one was watching her do. She straightened the frame, very gently, with both hands, until it was level. Then she stood back and looked at it. She said nothing. There was no one there to hear her anyway. She sat on the floor of that kitchen on the black and white tiles with the missing pieces, and she did not leave until Denise knocked and told her the hour was up. Elijah reviewed the footage the next morning. He had installed a single wide-angle camera in the kitchen before Gloria arrived. He had told himself he would watch it once and delete it. He watched it 3 times. He watched her move through the house like someone who understood she was a guest in a place that mattered. He watched her stop in front of the photograph. He watched her straighten it, slowly, carefully. He watched her sit down on the floor. He sat very still at his desk in Canary Wharf for a long time after that. Then Marcus knocked and opened the door and said the 11 o'clock had been moved to noon. Elijah said fine. Marcus looked at him for a moment. He knew better than to ask. After Marcus left, Elijah opened the top drawer of his desk and took out the photograph of the house on Nursery Road. He set it on the desk in front of him. He had bought that house because he had needed somewhere to put the part of himself he could not carry into the boardroom. He had not known until this week what he intended to do with it. He was beginning to understand. He called her that evening. The phone rang 4 times before she answered, and when she did, her voice was careful, in the way that voices are when the person has been thinking about what to say for hours. He did not give her a chance to prepare. He asked her directly if she had read the folder. She said yes. He asked if she had known the house belonged to his grandmother. She said not until she read it. A silence. He asked her what she had done while she was there. She told him she had walked through it, read what he had given her, looked at the photograph in the kitchen. He asked if that was all. A pause. Longer this time. She told him she had straightened it. The frame. It was crooked. He did not say anything for a moment. He asked her why. She said she did not know. that it just seemed wrong for it to hang crooked like that. He sat with that for a moment. Then he told her he needed to ask her something, and he needed her to answer it honestly, even if the honest answer was hard. She said all right. He asked her when she had left the hospital in 1985 whether she had thought about him. Not then. Later. In the years after. The silence this time was long enough that he thought she might not answer. Then she said every day. He exhaled very slowly. She told him she knew that didn't help him. He said no, but it was something. He paused. Then he told her he wanted to meet again. Not at a cafe this time. He wanted to show her something he was building, and he wanted her to tell him what she saw. She asked if he meant the house. He said yes. The house. She asked when. He said Saturday morning. 8 o'clock. She said she would be there. He met her on the cracked front step at 8 o'clock on a cold Saturday morning in November. He had a thermos of coffee. He had brought 2 cups. He handed her one without asking whether she wanted it. They stood on the step and looked at the house together for a moment. Then he unlocked the door and they went inside. He had contractors coming on Monday. He had a full restoration plan. He walked her through it quietly. What would be repaired, what would be preserved, what the house would become when it was finished. She listened. She asked 3 questions the entire time. They were not the questions he expected. She did not ask about cost. She did not ask why. She asked what the original kitchen tiles were called and whether he planned to keep them. She asked who had planted the tree in the back garden because it was the kind of tree that took 30 years to grow that tall. She asked whether he had ever been inside the house before he bought it. He said no. He had only ever driven past. She nodded, and she looked at the tree through the back window for a long moment. She said quietly that his grandmother must have planted it when it was nothing, that she must have planted it knowing she would not see it grown. He did not answer that. He did not need to. They stood in the kitchen, and she looked at the photograph on the wall, and this time she did not straighten it because it was still straight from when she had left it. They drank their coffee. After a while, he told her he was going to ask her something, and she could take as long as she needed to answer it. She said all right. He asked her why she had signed the paper. At the hospital. Specifically, what she had been thinking at that exact moment. She set her cup down on the counter. She looked at him. She said she had been thinking that she was 22 years old and she had 40 pounds and no one who was going to help her. She said she had been thinking that the kind of mother she was going to be in that room in that moment was not the kind of mother she wanted him to have. He asked her what she thought would have happened if she had known. If she had understood that the system he went into was not what she had imagined it was. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she said she thought she had known, and she had made the decision anyway, because she was afraid. And she had lived with that every single day for 39 years. He looked at her for a long time. He told her he was not going to say it was fine, that it was not fine, that it had never been going to be fine. She said she knew. He told her he was also not going to spend the rest of his life burning himself down to keep her warm in the blame. She looked at him. He continued quietly. He told her he had built Carter Meridian. He had built everything he had, and he was going to tell her something he had never told anyone, that half of what had driven him was rage. 30 years of rage dressed up as ambition, that he was tired of being angry, that was why he had written her the letter. That was all it was. There was a woman named Aunt Celestine. She was not his blood. She had been the house mother at the care home on Cold Harbor Lane, where Elijah had spent 3 years between the ages of 9 and 12. She was 74 now, and she still lived in Brixton in a flat in Ephra Road full of other people's photographs and plants that needed constant watering. She was the closest thing he had to family. He had been visiting her once a month for 15 years. He told her about Gloria on a Sunday afternoon in December, sitting at her kitchen table while she made tea he had not asked for. She let him finish. She did not interrupt. Then she poured the tea and set it in front of him and sat down across from him. She asked him directly what he wanted from Gloria. He said he did not know yet. She told him yes, he did. He looked at his cup. She told him he wanted Gloria to have known better, to have chosen differently. And since she could not give him that, he wanted to know if what was left was worth anything. He did not answer. She asked him if Gloria was sorry. He said yes. She asked if Gloria performed it or carried it. He thought about the floor of the kitchen on Nursery Road, about the photograph frame, about the tree she had noticed. He said she carried it. Celestine nodded. She drank her tea. Then she told him he already knew what he was going to do, that he was just not ready to admit it yet. She did not say anything else about it. She asked if he was eating properly and told him the plant by the window needed to go home with him because she had too many. He took the plant. He finished the restoration in March. It took 4 months. Every Saturday he was there. He learned to sand wood. He learned which tiles the hardware shop in Brixton Market still carried that matched the original. He replaced the front step. He fixed the hallway light. He rehung the kitchen photograph on a fresh nail centered on a wall that was now clean and level. Gloria came 3 of those Saturdays. Not everyone. She did not push for more than she was given. The 3rd Saturday she brought lunch, sandwiches in a brown paper bag. Nothing expensive, nothing that tried too hard. She set them on the kitchen counter without asking if he wanted them, and he ate his without comment, and they worked for another 2 hours in something close to quiet. That was the best afternoon he could remember in a long time. He did not tell her that, but she may have known, or than once. In the end, he decided that giving her the house would have been about guilt, his and hers. Instead, he did something smaller and more honest. He had a key made, a copy of the one he used. He put it in an envelope with a single note card. He wrote on the note card, "This is not a gift. This is an open door. Come when you need to. That is all I am offering." He had it delivered to her flat on Acre Lane on a Thursday. She called him that evening. She told him she had got the envelope, that she understood what he was saying with it. He said good. A pause. She said his name. He said yes. She told him she knew she was not his mother in the way that word was supposed to mean, that she knew she did not get to be that. He said no, she did not. She said she was grateful for the letter, for the house, for the Saturdays. He was quiet for a moment. Then he told her he had not done it for her, that he needed her to understand that he had done it because he needed to stop carrying it the way he had been carrying it. She said she knew. He told her she could have the Saturdays if she wanted them, that the house was going to need someone to water the plant he was putting on the back porch. A long pause. She said she could do that. He said all right then, that they would figure it out as they went. She said yes. They would figure it out as they went. That was the end of the conversation. It was not forgiveness, exactly. Forgiveness would have been too large a word for what passed between them on that phone call. It was something smaller than that, and something that might in time grow larger, like a tree planted, knowing it would not be seen fully grown. They met on the first Saturday of every month after that, not always at the house. Sometimes at the Arch on Atlantic Road, where they had first sat across from each other at the small table near the window, with the coffee that came before you ordered it. They did not talk like a mother and son. They talked like two people who had survived something difficult in proximity to each other and had agreed carefully to keep surviving in the same direction. There was a Saturday in April when he arrived, and she had already watered the plant and swept the back porch, and she was sitting in the old wooden chair he had found at a car boot sale in Brockwell Park and placed near the back window. She did not look up immediately when he came in. She was looking at the tree. He stood in the doorway and looked at her, looking at the tree. He did not say anything for a moment. Then he went to the kitchen and made the coffee. He brought her a cup without asking. She took it without thanking him. They sat together and looked at the tree for a while. She asked him quietly whether he thought his grandmother had known, whether she had understood that the tree would grow like this. He said he thought she had planted it hoping. She said that was enough sometimes, just to plant something and hope. He thought about that. Then he told her he thought it depended on what you did after you planted it. She was quiet. Then she said he was right. It did depend on that. He drank his coffee. The morning light came through the back window at an angle slow and gold, and the tree caught it in a way that made everything in the room seem temporary and permanent at the same time. He had spent 39 years angry at a choice made in a room he had never seen. He had spent those same years building something that no one had believed possible. He had learned somewhere in the middle of all of it that what you build toward matters more than what you are running from. Fear had cost him something, not the loss of her. He had never had her to lose, but the years of carrying the absence like a wound kept fresh, refusing to let it scar over, refusing to become something he could live around instead of something that lived inside him. He had built a company. He had built a house. He had not yet built a way to let go. That Saturday in April, in the kitchen of a restored Victorian terraced house on Nursery Road in Brixton, with coffee going cold in his hands and his mother beside him looking at a tree neither of them had planted, he felt something very quietly shift, not heal, not close, just shift into something he could carry differently. My wonderful friends, real love does not always look like love when it arrives. Sometimes it looks like a cream-colored envelope and a key and a Saturday morning in a house that smells like fresh paint and old wood. Sometimes choosing to reach toward the person who hurt you is not about them at all. Sometimes it is the bravest thing you will ever do for yourself. What did you think of Elijah and Gloria? Was Elijah right to reach out? Or was he asking too much of himself? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to hear from you. If you have not subscribed yet, do it right now. Hit like. Share this with someone who needs to believe that healing is possible even when it is incomplete. A new story is coming very soon. You will not want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one.